Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video, I've just passed my driving test this morning, so I'm in a good mood, and I'm in an even better mood because we will be fitting this Bolens 3-point attachment today, which is an attachment that we've been after for many years and struggled to get one. This one we had to ship over from America, which is why it's still in its shipping crate. But more about that in a minute. We've been trying to find one of these Bolens HT 3-points for many years now, and over here in the UK they hardly ever come up. You usually have to try and find a tractor that's been pulled out of a hedgerow somewhere that has one on the back of it, which we haven't actually managed to do, but we know others that have. And even in America, I'm sure some of you Bolens people watching this will know they sell quite quickly, especially when they are at the right money, which this one was. And we made a post on one of the Facebook groups a couple of months ago, because we did get this quite a while ago now. It's just we haven't done anything with it because we've had quite a bit going on with shows and being on holiday and stuff like that. But when we made that forum post, unfortunately, we got quite a few scammers trying to sell us 3-points, which when they sent us multiple pictures of said 3-points, they looked completely different. And top tip, if you want to scam anyone, don't say you took pictures yesterday when they are the first pictures that come up when you Google Bolens HT 3-point, and they're from one of our friends' forum posts 15 years ago. Makes it a bit obvious, but in the end we managed to get this one from a trusted source in America, so thank you very much, Aaron, for getting this 3-point to us, and it was all nicely packaged up when we got it. Obviously we took all of that out so that you could see it here. And this 3-point isn't complete. We knew that when we bought it. We just got it because it had most of the bits here, and we think we can probably make up the remaining bits. However, to do that, we really need to fit it to a tractor to see what's missing and also get to know this whole assembly, because we don't know it very well at all. And when it comes to fitting it to a tractor, we're also probably going to take it off the tractor again at some point so that we can replicate all of this, because buying one of these, it's not a cheap part to buy or attachment to buy, and neither is the shipping to get it to the UK, although it was quite fast. I'll talk about that in a minute. So to kind of make up for that cost, we're probably going to try replicating this so that all of our HTs have 3-points on them, and then that kind of increase in value of those tractors will kind of balance out paying for all the shipping and everything to get this over here, which the shipping took us a little while to organise. However, once we'd got it sorted and clicked pay, FedEx got it to us within 3 days of collecting it from Aaron in Indiana. So it got picked up from him, I think on the Tuesday, and then got taken to Memphis, Indiana. And then the next day it was flown from there to London Stansted Airport. And then the day after that it was, or it might have been the same day, it was taken to our local depot. And then the Thursday morning of that week, when it was picked up on the Tuesday, it got delivered to us. And I didn't actually know that Dad had bought this, so it was a nice surprise for me. But yeah, record timing, I think, for us for something coming from America, and it was something this chunky and heavy. But I'll start taking some parts out here so we can see everything. This, I believe, goes to the hydraulic lift cylinder pivot part, and it's got the slots in it so that it can so that you can have other attachments being lifted and lowered, and the 3-point stays where it is. We don't actually have the part that locks that bit. However, that's one of the things that we can make, and we've had people send us lots of dimensions to help us with that. This part, I think, connects to that and then pivots in these blocks that I'll pull out now. These go in the chassis, and then those bits attach to the bottom arms on the short parts there and there. And bolts, which actually will probably be for those. And then we have the top link bracket. You may have noticed there isn't a top link here. However, when we were at Strumpshaw Steam Rally back in May, when we were starting to have a look at these 3 points, we noticed that a certain stall that we went to had standard category 0 3-point top links. So we bought one and a couple of pins as well. Now the Bolens 3-point has slightly different ends on them. You can see if I put them next to each other, I mean you can see the difference between them. The Bolens ones are a bit rounder, a bit chunkier. So if we're going to replicate these, we probably need to find a way of making them more like the Bolens ones. However, for now this would do for lifting and attachments. This was a nice find, and as you can see there, it wasn't too pricey, it was just £10. And then a couple more pound for the pins. So that's everything we have at the moment. We now need to bring the HT20 around here and we can start looking at fitting some of this stuff. We have the HT20 in the workshop now, and we're not fully sure whether you can connect one of these up while you've got the deck on there, but we're hoping we can, because this is our main grass cutting tractor this year, which is why that's on there. But we're thinking we might actually take the fender off now, just to give us better access to this whole area, which will take that and the seat and everything off together. It's very simple. There's a bolt there, same on the other side, and then 2 bolts at the back here, and then you just need to disconnect the wire for the rear light, and all of that is detached, and you can just lift the whole lot off. So we're thinking we'll do that now and come back to you in just a minute with all of that stuff off. As if by magic, we have the fender off now, and I forgot to mention before, but this hole here is for a rod to go through, and that is used to hold the 3-point in position, because these tractors only have one hydraulic lift. So that's so you can effectively freeze where the 3-point is and then operate a different attachment like the mowing deck or something else. So that can be moving up and down and the 3-point stays stationary. We don't have that part, but we've been given plenty of pictures and measurements to make one in future. So that is a job that we need to do at some point. But with the fender off, we found out that our tractor is filthy. So we're going to take this outside quickly and just blow off all of the grass and just get the worst of the muck off of there, so that it's actually pleasant to work on. So we've had a clean up now, just getting the worst off of it. It wasn't too much of a deep clean, but it is what it is. And the paint's still not doing too bad on the HT20 for a 51-year-old machine, so that's not too bad. And we've put a tap through the holes there in the back axle, which we'll be using those later for the top link bracket. So we thought we'd clean those up at the same time. And we've done some cleaning of the 3-point parts as well, or at least these ones that are about to go on, which according to the manual, which we have a copy of, if anyone needs a copy of that, if you're doing something similar at home, let us know and we can send you that. But it says that this, which is the pivot shaft, goes on first with the pivot shaft supports, which are these blocks. Now when it comes to replicating these, originally from the factory these are cast, however we don't have a forge and it would cost quite a bit to get these cast from a foundry, so we'll be milling these out of a solid block of steel, which has plenty of machining to do on there, so that'll be an interesting project, but it'll take plenty of time, especially to make a number of them. And we've actually found plans online for reproducing these 3-point parts. However, it only covers the parts that we have, which is kind of unhelpful because it doesn't cover the top link or like the stop mechanism to hold the 3-point in place when you're moving other attachments. So we're going to have to find other plans for those. As I've said, some people have already been very helpful in giving us measurements, but just a bit more thought needs to go into those bits. However, we'll actually start assembling some stuff now. So to slot this into the chassis rails, I'm going to have to push both of these blocks on here, and then we can move around to the back of the tractor. I've forgotten to mention something, however I will cover it in just a second. So now that's slotted in there, if you look here, can see on the chassis there's been some welding done previously. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there's a lump of weld there and then some flaky looking bits on the edge. And not fully sure what that's for. Previous owner didn't mention it when we bought this tractor a few years ago. And it's one of those things where we'll never know what it was, but I'd be curious to know what it was that was welded on the back of the tractor, but just something we noticed when we were cleaning this up. But I'll now get all of these bolts in, and then we can move on to the next thing. We've tightened up all of the bolts now, and according to the manual, the next things to go on are the top link bracket and the bottom arms, and then the sway bars and chains and everything like that. However, we don't see much point in doing that, seeing as if you do that first before connecting up the lift arm, everything's going to be sitting on the floor or kind of floating around everywhere. So, rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, but we've connected up this end of the lift bar, which you have to do before the other end, because when you put this in the right position or start to move it that way, you can see it's inside the chassis there and you can't get the pin in, so you have to do it beforehand. And then I will go around here and try to connect up the other end of this, which is quite hard to get to. Also, the joys of working on a grass cutting tractor, you get a lovely scent of cat poo when you're working on stuff, because that's what it's been driving around in our garden, so that's unfortunate, but that is what it is. Hopefully I can move away from it once I've got this pin in. Nearly there. There we are. That's that in, and now all of that is held in the down position. You can see we've got the arms laid out here, and they've already got the drop links mounted to them, because that is how we got this 3-point. And we've just spent a little while freeing up the bearings on the ends of each of these bottom bars, which I guess is better than them being worn, which they're not, so that's good. They all now move. They're still a little bit stiff, some of them, but they move, that's all that matters. And when it comes to mounting these, the top hole on the axle is for a 5/8 pin or a category 0 pin, which goes through these, so these are mounted to the top hole. And then the bottom hole is for a category 1 pin or a 3/4 pin, and that's what you use to mount the chains. Now, instead of pins, this had previously been used with bolts, which you can see these two are quite worn. You can see the grooves, or you could probably see the grooves, but in real life you definitely can, from where that's had load on it. So we're going to switch these with the bolts used for the chains, and all of the bolts were the same size, which is obviously a non-standard thing. So, bit of a question to my American and Canadian viewers: if anyone has or knows of a supplier that might sell these category 0 swivel ends, like weld-on ends, that would be very helpful for us when it comes to replicating these. And also category 0 pins of various sizes, if you know a supplier, ideally online, so that we can buy them from over here. So if anyone knows a supplier for either of those two things, please do let us know. That would help us out quite a bit with replicating these 3-points. However, I should probably start trying to actually fit some of this stuff up. So if I just shove that in there. Probably got that washer further down there before filling that in. Yeah, that's that bit through, and that just needs the washer and nylock on there. Then the drop links go on the inside when you're fitting them. That will obviously connect up to there, and then we've just got to connect the chains and everything like that as well. That's that in. So as both of the bottom links loosely attached, obviously the bolts need to be done up there, but I'm going to attach these two, attach the drop links next. Pliers up here. One attached, and we have to come around in front of you, I'm afraid. Let's do the other one.
I think that was the right move to put that lift bracket on, because that would have been quite awkward doing these otherwise.
Yeah. At least how it is, you have something solid to kind of work with. Right, so that's both of those attached now, and might as well hook up the bolts for the chains at the same time. Obviously these go in diagonals across, keep it nice and tight. Again, I'll do all the bolts, or the nuts, sorry, in a second. Okay. Bit around it. That one's a little bit tighter, it feels. Right. There we go, that's all connected up still, so that's good. All of those nylocks need putting on with new washers, or replacement washers that we found on the inside as well. The last part of this 3-point assembly to go on is the top link bracket here, which didn't come with any bolts, but we found a couple of new 1/2 inch by 13 fully threaded bolts that we'll be using. And I'm not sure how easy or difficult this will be to kind of line up, since I've got to use an extension to get anywhere near it, so we'll see. Feels like that engaged, but now it's gone stiff, so I'm not sure I'm actually in there straight or not. No, that one seems happy. Then obviously I'll just tighten these up. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but the hole for the top link should be at the top, I think, on ours. Some pictures of ones that we've seen have like 3 holes on there, so it doesn't actually matter, but ours only has 1 on there. For some reason those bolts bottomed out before they should have done, so we cut them down a bit, and that is now on there nice and tightly. And in theory it's time to fit the top link now. However, there's a bit of an issue in that we don't have a category 0 pin of the right size. This is one of those ones that we got from Structural Steam Rally. If I put this through here, you can see that is way too long. That's the kind of thing that should be used on an attachment here, when the brackets would be kind of a similar length to this. And this goes back to our point earlier about trying to find a supplier of category 0 pins of varying lengths, and also those weld-on bearing ends as well. But that kind of gives you a view of the finished look with the parts that we have. Although, seeing as we don't have a category 0 attachment to mount to this at the moment, we might as well keep the top link off for now, especially since we don't have the correct pin to put on there. So I'll put this to the side for now, and I would say it's probably time to test it. However, since this is an HT, it's got this prop shaft going from the engine and that fan to cool the hydro, and that starts spinning the second you turn the engine over. So we don't really want to test it without the fender on, so we will now put that fender back on the tractor, and then we can give this a test. So we've got the fender back on, and as we were refitting this, we noticed that the bends that were in the fender that you may have noticed earlier in the video, this has always been dented in these two areas. We noticed that they were probably going to stop the 3-point from being lifted all the way up. It was quite obvious that that was not going to clear it. So with the aid of a bit of timber and a lever, we've levered these out now, and it looks as though it should clear the fender, so we're going to give it a try now and go very slowly just in case. So I'll hop on here, try and lean over. Seems to be all good. Well, as you saw there, the 3-point linkage went up and down all right, and it cleared the fender, which was the main thing we were looking for there. So we are very happy with this, and I'd say we've learnt quite a bit today just putting these bits on here. Obviously we know we're missing some bits, such as the brace that goes across here, obviously the stopper block we've been talking about quite a bit, and the proper Bolens top link, seeing as the standard one is different, and we showed you the differences earlier. However, as I said, we've learnt quite a bit, and we have a few things to buy for this. In theory, this is now operational, so we need to have a look to see if we can find out if there's any category 0 attachments that might be for sale here in the UK, or make something, one of the two. And one thing we have just thought about is the fact that this tractor is now a foot longer than it was, so we'll have to see if this goes back in our tight storage space. Otherwise we might have to begrudgingly take it off again just so it'll fit. Hopefully we won't have to. We'll find a way to kind of wedge it in there, but not too helpful looking at it from that aspect. But we've got some homework to do about what implements we might be able to find for this, and doing more research into how we can replicate this. That being said, that is the end of this video, so let us know in the comments section down below what you think of our HT 3-point, and as I said before, if you have any contacts or possible people that we might be able to source the weld-on ends or the category 0 pins from, we would much appreciate anyone that can kind of steer us in the right direction for either of those things. But thank you very much for watching. That's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.